Absolutely horrific. Workplace violence is what they're calling it. Horrific tragedy this morning. A disgruntled, deranged employee shot and killed two colleagues in the media, wounded a third person. And this was all during a live broadcast. Evidently, then he shot himself. Watch this.
First and foremost, at approximately 1:30 p.m. today, the suspect from this incident, this shooting, died at Fairfax and Nova Hospital in Northern Virginia as a result of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. I want to express my condolences to WDBJ 7 TV for their loss this morning. We know this has been a very difficult situation to manage professionally and personally, and we sincerely appreciate their cooperation and assistance with the ongoing investigation and our search efforts. We are keeping Ms. Vicki Gardner with the Smith Mountain Lake Regional Chamber of Commerce in our thoughts and prayers as she continues to undergo treatment from injuries sustained in the shooting.
Such a tragedy. It really is inexplicable. It's evil. Here to give us insight is active shooter expert, former police officer Chris Grollnek. And Chris, we need to focus on prevention and not to politicize anything. This is so tragic, but we know that some are just going to, once again, come after the Second Amendment, which disarms the good guys, arms the bad guys. And you've been there. You've been in devastating situations before. Tell us what you think happened in this one.
Well, thank you for having me, Governor. I really appreciate the time. Today was as basic as it gets workplace violence incident where one person was at an occupation with other people inside the building. We've all worked with people that have said maybe a little bit off the wall things, and too many times we failed to report those. That's pretty much what separates this from an active shooter incident where somebody's trying to right some perceived wrong. Now, this person obviously had some mental challenges based off his manifesto. However, everyone that was interviewed afterwards said, you know, we all knew something was wrong. Even the station manager had admitted earlier today that this wasn't a surprise to know that it was this gentleman that perpetrated this crime. It was callous, it was cold, it was calculated. And as you said, Governor, not to politicize this, but it's not gun violence. It mirrors the person that drove their car into the Census Bureau and used their vehicle as a weapon, or the gentleman that flew his airplane into the IRS because he was disgruntled as a former employee there. Just because this person used a weapon, a firearm, doesn't make it, if you will, a quote-unquote specific gun crime. It's simply a crime against people.
What are some of the signs, then, that others can look out for in their place of work, signs of workplace violence, the indicators? We need practical solutions here on how we can prevent this from happening.
Yes, ma'am. And on our website, activeshooterexpert.com, we have so many resources. I think I've said it before on this show. We don't have anything for sale. Everything there is free. Everything there is based off prevention training. And what you can do is simply use a series of training metrics, if you will, of if you see something, say something that's kind of a worn out statement, but it applies so well. Because if you hear something, if shooters or people that do things of this horrific of a nature, they give warnings, they give indicators, they come at, whether it's their boss or their coworkers. If they're filing reports saying, I'm really upset with this person and I want to get even with them, I mean, that's something that your coworker has to be comfortable enough to go report to their boss or their peer and have their peer report it. But it has to be a self-policing system, and then we can escalate it to the next level and kind of keep an eye out for what type of, kind of tamper down the horrific event.
Okay, good. I was going to ask you that. And we do hear that. Some may say it as cliche, but we hear that if you hear something, tell somebody. If you see something, report that. Tell us more about who the authorities would be that we are to go to and tell.
Okay, so it starts with, that's a great question. It starts with ourselves, okay? There's 4 parts to these incidents. If we know and we work with a coworker that is maybe slipping at work, maybe he has a marriage problem, maybe he has begun drinking, or she, there's no demographic to this that we can put our finger on and say, they fit this profile of fill in the blank, active shooter, workplace violence offender, horrific mass murder, or whatever. We know that the first school shooting happened in the 1700s. We know that the earliest female shooter was 5 years old. The oldest documented male shooter is 94 years old. They come in all shapes, colors, and sizes, and you have to really get close to your peers and your friends and know what's going on. And if there's something going on in their life, try to intervene. Try to be a good friend. Try to be a good neighbor. And by making those small reports, managers need to have some type of training of actually what your exact question is, who do you escalate that to? So HR usually has these resources, and then the local authorities do as well.
That's great, too, being reminded that management needs some training in there and know what to look for. And then, of course, your great points about self-responsibility and being vigilant. Now, going forward, is there a threat, in this case, of copycats?
I think copycats would probably be the largest threat right now. These people, for us to just dismiss them as crazy, delusional, I think somebody said on another show today, this wacko. Well, for us to reduce them to just that term makes us a little bit crazy, actually. These people are cold, calculated, and serialistic in nature, where they go out and study the crimes of other people. This person in his manifesto studied the Virginia Tech shooting, the Columbine shooting, and the Charleston, South Carolina Church of Emmanuel shooting. And he marked his bullets. I mean, it's a horrific event. And for us to say that we knew, we're not surprised that this person carried out that crime, there's no blame or shame to the victim or the people that work with. I think that there's a training gap, and we are acting in a society where we respond to things instead of prevent them. And for us to know that we have a react, escape, and survive mentality built within us, and a fight or flight built within us, we need to forget there's that other thing called freeze. And I believe you guys have a graphic that we can put up, if possible, and it shows the two victims, one that was shot in the back from the Chamber of Commerce and the reporter. And they were frozen in time. As the gunshot happened, you could see them physically freeze up. There was no training involved to where they could curb their personality or behavioral modification into, hey, I need to react to this, I need to escape this, and I need to survive this. Now, I know she ran away, but and that didn't help, but I believe that, those few seconds of kind of getting stuck in the middle is what we need to start teaching to prevent.
Okay, so kind of that reasonable meme then is, you say react,
escape,
survive.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's the key to doing so. Do you offer training for different businesses, for we as individuals, so that we can be self-armed and so that we can protect ourselves?
Yes, ma'am. We raised a lot of money a few years ago and put out a 26-minute public safety video for free. It's on our website. It's in use from the White House to the neighbors down the street. It is a behavioral modification video with training. And then, of course, the company offers a series of different training packages for corporate, government, education, private industry, all the way down to individual households with people that have some type of threat. And we come in and do risk assessments and then teach them how to mitigate those risks and reduce their effects. There's 4 things that we need to remember about these incidents. 1, it's the location. 2 is the people inside. 3 is the actual shooter or perpetrator. And 4th is the police response. These things end in under 7 minutes. It takes police 17 minutes to respond. And I've taught all the ways, top levels of government possible, to try to drill that message home, because if these events are over in 7 minutes and police aren't on scene for 17, we are the first responders. So we need some type of basic training. And I'm not talking about fighting, and I'm not talking about shooting. I'm talking about basic principles and values to protect you and your family, or I'll use me and my family.
Well, I thank you so much for all that valuable information. I know that the viewers are thanking you also. So thank you, and stay safe.